I was this close to buying the Fuji X100VI. This close. I even went to the Fuji X100VI launch party in Sydney, but I still didn't buy one. Instead, I got this. Now, just before we dive into what this is, I just want to say, I think the Fuji is amazing. This is not a hit piece on the Fuji X100VI or the X100vi. I really believe that these cameras are solid, but they're just not for me, and I have a very good feeling that they're also not for a lot of people out there. So instead, I want to share something a little bit better, in my opinion, a little bit more versatile, and just overall a bit more of a full-fledged camera. So that's what we're gonna do. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. So what does the X100 lineup do so well? Let's start with the obvious, the images and the colors. The colors specifically. The images look great, they're sharp, they look awesome. However, those colors, those Fuji recipes just hit differently, and I'm yet to see another camera brand replicate this. Fuji, you're killing it. The X100 lineup also looks incredibly cool in photos and videos. Whenever I see them in reels or whenever I see someone holding them, I'm just like, damn, that is a good looking camera. And overall, the X100 lineup, more or less, is kind of the perfect camera for anyone that just wants to shoot at the 35mm focal length with a compact setup. I can't lie, Fuji has nailed that. And like I said, I'll give credit where credit is due. And I thought that this was me. I thought that I wanted all these things, and a little part of me still does, but then I built this. Let's break this down. So this is super simple, actually. It is the A7C Mark II, and it's the silver version. This kind of gives a little bit of an illusion that it might be a Fuji X100VI or X100vi. Either way, even if it doesn't look like one of those cameras, it still looks really cool in photos and videos, so that's a huge plus. And then I have the 24mm f2.8 lens on the front of it. Now, I understand. The Fuji X100v and X100VI, they have 35mm equivalent lenses on the front of them, and they go down to f1.8, and that's cool. I couldn't find anything like that. Of course, I could get a 35mm f1.8 from Sony and put it on the front of it, but it's not gonna be as small as compact, so it was a no deal. I don't mind shooting at f2.8. I like the look of f2.8 on a full frame sensor anyway, which is a little bit of a perk that the A7C Mark II has, but we'll get into that just a little later. But if I want to shoot closer to 35mm, I actually mapped this little custom button on the side of this lens to zoom in to APS-C mode. And then once APS-C mode is activated, I times 24 by 1.5, which gets me my APS-C equivalent focal length. And now I'm shooting at roughly 35mm. So why do I use this? Well, it's incredibly versatile. If I want to shoot great photos, I can. If I want to shoot great video, guess what? I can as well. And before you come at me, I know the Fuji X100VI specifically has got a load of video updates, but it's locked at 35mm and it's APS-C. I love full frame video, and usually when I'm shooting video, it's north of 50mm or tighter. So the 35mm for me is just out of the question. Of course, with that said, this is a 24mm lens, so I do have to carry an extra lens with me if I do want to shoot some tighter video, but that's far better than having to take a completely different camera body, and that way I can shoot both photo and video on one body. Now, something that kind of freaked me out when I was doing a lot of research on the X100 lineup is that you can't take the lens off. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, especially if you love the 35mm focal length, but I'll be honest, I don't baby my camera gear, and I also don't thrash it, but to think that if one scratch got on the front of your X100VI, X100v, whatever X100 series camera lineup, if one little scratch got on the front of your lens and it was noticeable in your photos, that's the camera done. If something happens to the front of this lens, and I'll be honest, I haven't even put the lens cap on this since I bought it because I just want it for ease of use, easy access, pull it out of my camera or just leave it on the side of my body. But if something happened to this lens, boom. Unfortunately, yes, it sucks, gotta buy a new lens, I get it, but it's better than buying a whole new camera body and just throwing a perfectly good camera body in the bin just because the lens on the front is broken. Now, I don't know if Fujifilm offers repairs, but since I'm always on the road, chances are I probably wouldn't be able to get that fixed in just a day, and that's not ideal for me. Now, something that I hinted at before is that this guy, I've taken this lens off quite a few times. This guy has a full frame sensor. I much prefer photos coming from a full frame sensor, and I much prefer video coming from a full frame sensor. So that's a big perk. It also has a far better user interface. We're talking a load more buttons and dials, making it far easier and quicker to use this camera. And a little bit of a bonus. It's not a deal breaker, but it also looks really good in videos and photos when this is actually a subject in a video or a photo. So for that reason, I feel like the A7C Mark II, at least the silver version, ticks pretty much every box. Now, one thing I haven't covered when it comes to shooting on the A7C Mark II is the colors. I know Sony has somewhat of a picture profile setup that you can alter, but it's nothing like the Fujifilm recipes. So how do I get around that? Well, at the moment, I'm currently shooting in JPEG and RAW, and I've been using both of these to be able to craft a brand new preset pack that I've been working on, and you're currently seeing them right now. I have loved editing the JPEGs and the RAWs from this camera, building somewhat of not a Fujifilm replica, if you will. I'm not trying to absolutely 100% replicate the colors, but I am trying to get these photos looking a little bit more film-esque and overall just a little bit less digital. And I feel like right now I have 100% been able to achieve that. These presets work on both RAW and JPEG, hence why I've been shooting both RAW and JPEG. And if you want to go check them out so you can edit with these as well and get a much kind of nicer, if you will, look on your photos, you can do so in the first link down below. These presets have completely transformed the way I have been looking at my Sony photos, and I hope that they can do the same for you as well, and more or less save you from buying a Fuji X100 and spending a load of cash on a camera you probably don't need. Now, once again, I just want to make this clear. This is not a hit piece on Fuji. I love the cameras. I think they are incredible, but I know they're not for everyone. And I also know that most people don't want to go out and spend a load of cash on a camera that only has one lens and isn't super versatile. It's not for everyone, especially for people just getting into photography. And that's why I wanted to share this setup. But anyway, this is my daily camera, and I'd love to know what your daily camera is down below. Is it an X100 series camera? Is it the A7C Mark II? Or is it something completely different? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyway, that is gonna wrap up today's video. If you're new around here, a subscribe would mean the absolute world, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.